Hello, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining tonight. Tonight we're going to talk very briefly about the love of Christ, the role that it plays in where we are today as a nation on November 6, 2024. We have survived the election, and I've told you all along that either way, we've got to be the church. And so now we're through with the election, and what I want to ask you, if you believe in Christ, is it's time to get to work now. It's time to fix some things. You might hear that and think, well, David's being political. No, I'm not. I'm talking about the relationships that we have, maybe relationships that have been broken, not only over political things, but just over disagreements. It's time for us to be the church, okay? And that time would have come today, no matter who won, which election, whatever. But we know and we agree that we, as a disciple of Christ, I want to be as much like Christ as I can. I'll agree that I was created in the image of God. You were too. I'll agree that we even looked at this Sunday, that Jesus was always pointing people to the Father, and he loved selflessly even to the end that it came to. He commanded us as his disciples to love the same way, to love God the same way, to love each other the same way. And even in John 15:13, Jesus said, no greater love have a man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. So that's what it means. Now, I'm not telling you that we've got to go lay down our lives for our friends. I'm telling you that as the church, we've got a job to do in being a beacon of hope. This has nothing to do with politics, by the way. It does, but it doesn't. It does in this. Looking at the results now, a little over half of our nation, according to the polls, are very happy today, and a little under half are pretty sad. And so, with all of that said, we've got this job to do. We are not a pawn in anyone's chess game, and we can't be. We've got a job to do to be Christ to the world. And there are a lot of people right now that kind of feel like they're without hope. Now, that was true before the election as well. I think the election compounds things like this, but that was true before the election, as well. And so what I want to propose to you today is that we, as the Christian church, dwell on today, John 3:16, where Jesus told his disciples, Nicodemus as well, that God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. That's the end game for us, is to tell people John 3:16. The end game for us is to come alongside them and help them, because there's a lot of people that are stuck in hopelessness, and there are even times when we feel like we're being drugged down into it. Think back to when Joseph was thrown into the well by his brothers, back in Genesis. His brothers were jealous of him. They were jealous of the coat of many colors that his father had given him, a coat that made it look like he was hierarchically over them. He was dressed as, if you put it in modern terms, they were dressed like blue-collar workers. He had an executive's coat, a very beautiful executive's coat, and it made them mad, because it was just a continual compounding of the fact that their father seemed to value Joseph over them. In fact, I think if you go back and read the story, he did. I'm not going to lie about that, but so it made them angry. And so they threw Joseph in a pit, and then a band of travelers came by, and they ended up selling Joseph into slavery. But when Joseph was in that pit, now, they've thrown him in this hole, a pit. There's a hole in the ground, and he can't get out. And there are people that feel like they're in a pit right now. Maybe not waiting to be sold, but they're in a pit. What if you had a rope and the ability to help them, and you didn't? I believe God will hold us accountable for the times when we have a rope and the ability to help someone in a pit and we don't. No matter why we say we're not going to help them, we're not going to help them because they're a different race or because they don't believe in God. I mean, we might say that because they believe politically different than we do, because they're a fan of a different sports team than we. Whatever, however you want to slice it. If you've got a rope and you've got the ability to help someone and you don't, you will stand before God one day and answer for it. I will too. So we got to stop letting our pride get in the way and do what God put us here to do. God put us here in 1778, Ebenezer. The only reason we've lasted this long, in my opinion, is that people have been willing to live like Jesus and love like Jesus. I hope and pray you will continue to do that. Have a great week.